So this is our third session of Cohort 4, and you're welcome once again. So my name is Ajuma Ataguba, and I'm the Managing Director of Founder Institute Abuja. And just to say a special welcome to our mentors. I see Faiz, I see Idowu, hi Idowu. I see Abu, you're welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see
I
you.
also
Ajuma.
see Yemisi, hi. So you're very, very welcome. Yes. So this is today's session, our weekly sessions. And where are the founders? Balogun, Lawrence, where are your working group? Where are your team members?
They are joining. They're joining soon.
Okay.
I think
All
they're just joining now.
Okay. Okay. So next time we'll start 5 on the dot. So ideally you ought to be in here a few minutes before we start. So yes, so we'll just go straight into the program for today. And let me pull up your agenda so that you can have a feel. So anyway, on the screen, before we even get to that, your assignments, we want to talk about your assignments quickly. And we have this long list of bad assignments, and that's not very pleasing to us. But we've decided to give you some comfort because you're just starting and you had 2 sessions back to back. But you're going to have the grace just for today, and all assignments must be in and completed. Thereafter, assignments that are not submitted will begin to give you epic sprint. And what an epic sprint means is that you're going to also get another assignment, which will also be like the same number of hours working at, you know, the tasks and assignments. It will help improve your work though, but you don't have, you know, privilege of time. So please, please, please. And by next week, if your assignments are not completed, you will not be admitted into the session. So those are the rules. So you have this week to make all the adjustments that you need to make. Thank you. So can you share the agenda for today, please? And it's very, very important that the mentors, you know, see that, you know, are encouraged in the sense that, you know, you're living up to expectation. They are making out time to be here to make presentations and also host office hours. And so when they see that kind of report that was just on the screen, it's not encouraging. So for today, the goal of the session, which is customer development, is for founders to be able to analyze customer feedback. So assumptions must be tested by speaking with customers. Already, from your vision assignment, you know, you've already started engaging in customer interviews already. So the mentors are going to speak to, you know, several aspects of customer development. Number one, how to identify real customers and ensure that they have a real problem to solve. 2, learn the best tactics to identify target customers and encourage them to be interviewed. 3, know if people are telling you the truth or just being polite. That's very, very critical. And then identify and test assumptions in a customer interview. They will also, be speaking about how to process and respond to feedback from customer interviews, and also speak to you about how to know when you are focused on a good idea. So those are the key issues that the mentors will be tackling tonight. And so, as is customary, you need to scroll the agenda and scroll down. Yes. So we're going to take the working group reports. That will just be for 5 minutes. So the presidents of the working groups will make their presentation. The next on the agenda will be hot seats. You need to correct that. It's not program orientation. That's the hot seat. So founders will pitch. Mentors will provide the ratings. Mentors, we already shared the rating links with you, and you'll be rating the founders based on different scores. We'll pull up the rating chart. 1, 2, we don't have 3s in Founder Institute, 4 and 5. So that will be pulled up whilst they do their pitching and you provide ratings. So for mentors, whether you review or you provide the comments to the founder on the hot seat or not, you are expected rate all founders that pitch feedback whilst on the hot seat, because of time, we'll just be calling 1 or 2 mentors to provide the feedback. And thereafter, we will now move on to mentor presentations. And for today, the mentors that are here already, Tony, no, is Tony here? Like, I don't see her. Abu Yemisi Ido, Katie should be joining us, then Faiz. Okay, so 5 to 8 minutes, will be fine. And then you get more opportunity to during the office hours. So we're also asking the mentors to please set up your office hours to tackle customer development. The founders will be getting 20 hours of work for the week assignments, and they will be needing help to discuss this topic further. So the one-on-one during the office hours, is where you can really help them more, over a 15-minute, 20-minute, or 30-minute session with each of the founders that book. And founders, the mentors, as we've been over this already, and I guess you're all used to booking office hours now, and you've made all of those adjustments. So no shows, you don't want to be rated a no-show. That's not good for your record. And it's also not it's not good for a mentor to make out time and then you're not there. So it's what you are here for. So additional comments on the assignments that your assignments on vision. Ideation is one of the key questions in the assignment. I don't see that being answered properly. You're all asked to come up with 6 different ideas and provide customer problems to those ideas, and also provide also speak to how you can how big or what the size of impact those ideas are, and how that impact can be scaled to 1 million users and customers. You need to get ideation right. You need to get ideation right, because you are building a global business. So those numbers, they matter. So for FI, we start local. The model is starting local and going global. So, and the figure we look at is 1 million 1 million over a period. So keep that at the back of your mind. And you may have, done some of this before, but not entirely. So we're just helping you to interrogate further, with your ideas. So that's what this is what our agenda looks like for tonight. So you're very, very, very welcome once again, mentors, and we will your profiles when we get to your presentation, so you'll have an opportunity to introduce yourself properly, what you do. But before now, the founders have all also been able to check you out, to read up on you prior to now. So thank you and welcome everyone. Founders, welcome. How are you doing? So FI is a hot seat from beginning to the end, but running a business is a hotter seat. So the sooner you start getting used to being on that hot seat, like I said, you must be that person who can think on your feet, fluid intelligence. That's who an entrepreneur is, weathering the storm, okay? Disrupting, you are a disruptor, and also you must also be ready to be disrupted. So it's both ways, and you're solving problems, and so there is no rest. So, but as you see the transformation happening, as that is the reward, and the satisfaction that you get at the end of the day. You're making impact, changing the world, also making money from it. So welcome to tonight. Customer development is very, very important. So take it serious. Okay, you can always come back to your work, refine it, because most entrepreneurs, especially here in Nigeria, you are all quick to start building products without validating that idea, without finding whether you have customers for it, and thereafter a wonderful product just. So this is very, very critical. So listen to your mentors, be prepared to take feedback. Yes, another feedback that I see that I have on your assignments of vision is working group feedback. I see that a lot of you did not do that assignment that you need feedback from everybody. Your team members see from the other side. Your directors, we all see from the other side. Your mentors, they also, so you are here for feedback. So we are not here to sugarcoat change the world idea. We are here to give you the feedback from another angle, from another perspective, from the other side, which you don't necessarily see. So please pay attention to feedback. Take it seriously, So it's called constructive criticism. So, all right. So I think I've said quite a lot. So let's move on into the working group reports from the president. So Mr. Sheng, over to you.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's quite enough. So we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is working group report. I know I saw I saw the flyers report, and I saw one report coming in much more later on. So in no particular order, let me start with the flyers. Flyers. Miracle, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Your report. Okay, your report.
Okay, so we had meeting yesterday, and in attendance we have I had Stephen Somto, Mr. Kende, and I had Babatunde, myself, and Barnabas. So we discussed, because we always meet every Monday, and Fridays. So we went through the whole assignments together yesterday, and we also discussed about increasing the time we spend, because initially we planned on doing 1 hour, but we found out that 1 hour is not enough for everybody to, like, give their own contribution. So we are looking at putting up to like maybe an hour, 45 minutes or 2 hours at max. So we had a very good meeting and helped each other really out yesterday.
Okay. Anything you want to bring up, for support or anything?
Support.
Or assistant, anything?
I mean, no, nothing
You
else.
guys are great.
Yeah, so far everything is going great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, empowered. Empowered.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, so we had our meeting on Saturday. We're supposed to have a meeting on Thursday, but because of the situation on ground, we have 4 members of the group dropped out of the program.
Okay.
So currently we are 3 because another person was added to us, somebody was added to us. So we are 3 on the empowered working group currently. So our first meeting was held on Saturday. We discussed on the vision assignment and how we can come up with ideas from the impact KPIs of the UN SDGs. We also discussed about the roles, and we deliberated on how we can, integrate the roles of other members that left to the current members. So then we rescheduled our weekly meetings to Mondays and Thursdays and to be on Google Meet. So yesterday we had another meeting. So we discussed, we went through the vision assignment together. So we gave constructive criticism and we gave our feedbacks. And, we learned a lot actually.
Okay, great.
Yes, so that's the report I have now.
Have you sent in your report?
No. I'm sending it right now. I'm sending it.
You're sending it right now.
Yes.
So I'm expecting something to drop in my mail right now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So explorers. Explorers. Are they there? Kwame, John, Mustafa, Abubakar, Ghana. Who is
Good
present?
afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
We're actually enforcers.
I think our group leader is not currently available at the moment, so I will just have to step in.
Okay, who is the group leader, by the way?
Adike Babalola, I think.
And why is she not already here? Did she communicate to any one of you?
No.
Okay. Okay, so,
on Saturday, we had our first working group meeting. It went well. We discussed, we shared our ideas, and we criticized each other's ideas. And yesterday night, too, we had our second working group meeting, likewise. So it was very interesting. Though that the time is very, very short. So we are thinking of increasing the time so that to accommodate more people, so that more people can share their ideas and all that. Thank you.
Okay, so inform your group lead to send a mail to the MD, Lady A, to explain why she wasn't here tonight. Huh?
Okay, we do.
Okay, I'm holding the entire team responsible to making sure that that is done. Am I clear? Okay, enforcers, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
My name is Kwame from the enforcers.
Okay, I mixed that up.
Yeah, enforcers. Okay, so the entrepreneurship life is not an easy one. Yeah, so we resorted to having our meetings by chat since our times were very different. So we held our meetings by chat where a member of a founder will just post his opinion or questions, and then the rest of the group will answer it in due time when they had time. So that was how we communicated as a group. Unfortunately, 2 founders that dropped out. However, I saw one rejoin the session this afternoon, and I'm very excited about that.
Okay.
Besides that, our discussions have been wonderful. We have given each other useful feedback. I've gotten useful feedback, and I've also given useful feedback. And I think I'm just glad to see that one of us got back onto the program, and I hope we'll finish together. So that's our report for this week. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Enforcers. Have you also submitted your report? Have you sent your mail?
Yes,
have you
yes,
sent it by
I
mail?
did.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay, great. Okay, and lastly, right, influencers.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Okay, so we had a meeting yesterday, and we're supposed to have another one on Saturday.
Lawrence, I'm supposed to know who you are, right?
Yes. Okay. Sorry. My name is Lawrence. My name is Lawrence Atta.
Okay.
From the Influencers Working Group. We had a meeting yesterday, and the meeting was actually very productive. We're able to zero in on what each of the group member had in their each of the group member working on, and we're able to give some very constructive criticism. We're able to open our eyes to some things, to see different parts of what we're actually proposing, or the problems that we're actually trying to solve in the market. So it was very good, and at least we'll have to go back to the drawing board to make some little changes to what we initially had. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think basically that was it.
Okay, great. So now there's something I noticed. Only 2 groups sent in their group reports by mail. Now we just have to understand that you're starting your business, and it's important to take certain little things very seriously, like documenting certain activities in your group. So please, I want all reports sent in before these presentations take place. Am I clear? Okay, so please, all groups are to ensure that their reports are sent in to the admin, and then copy the directors. Great. Lady, any comments on the group reports? Lady, any comments for them on the group reports?
For now, none for now.
Okay, so let's move on to the next thing here, which is the pitch. I sent a chat on the group, but we observed that 3 of you had already pitched last week. So I won't be taking pitches from those 3. So Mustafa Ango, Miracle, Lawrence, John, is Ilu here? Then Ida and Emeka, get ready for your 1-minute pitch. The Mad Libs template is there. The mentors, we're ready? Okay. Emeka, it looks like you're very ready. Yes, I see that smile. So you go first then.
Okay.
You're very ready, so go first. 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. My company show your trade. Oh, I've already started. Let me restart.
Okay, so start then.
My company show your trade serves 2 customers. To our customers, it's a platform that provides a classified marketplace for them to find products and services with ease without having the fear of being duped or cheated by online sellers. And to our clients, it's a platform that boosts their businesses and services by helping them to market and sell their products, giving them validation through certifications and ratings, and also connecting them to an array of delivery companies that can send their products to their customers. That way, they can boost their business without having to work 24/7 and without being frustrated doing their business. Thank you.
I see our founders are really getting, I hope you're not focusing on keeping to time and then losing the meat in your presentation. Okay, so mentors, Idowu and Yemisi, I don't know if you could help us with feedbacks to Emeka. Idowu?
Is this an existing business? Oh, sorry.
Okay, so the first time I launched it was in 2019. I hadn't figured out what I wanted to do as at the time, but we got a lot of up to 500 people subscribing and using it. And so I want to get back to it, and that's why I subscribed into this program.
All right. I actually thought Mr. Shegun wanted someone to speak. That's why, but it sounds very interesting. But like Mr. Shegun mentioned, it seems like, I don't know what time limits you have, but I didn't really, it didn't sound very interesting to me. I know that it's a really interesting idea because I had gone through the notes that was shared. And now you talking and saying, okay, you had 500 people already interested. Those are like key things. You don't want to put all the buzzwords in your pitch. And then the actual key information of maybe traction that you have gained or what essentially this business is or trying to achieve, you miss out on it. Because if someone asks me now to say something key from what you said, I won't be able to remember. But I know it's an amazing idea and it's hopefully something I look forward to working with further.
Okay, let me see, read them 1, 2, 4, and 5. I've been, Kathy, let me put up the ranking up.
Yeah, I'll most definitely do it for.
Okay.
It's an amazing idea with a lot of potential. So yes, I mean just a little work. So hopefully by the time you're done with this program, you will be more confident and really know the essential ideas or essential things to include in an elevator pitch like this. Really.
Okay, great. So thanks for that, Ido.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Yemisi. Many of the things that I would have addressed have already been addressed. Hi, Emeka. Do I think that you have a very valuable solution? Yes. Do I think that there is significant market potential for this solution? Yes. However, do I think that you adequately captured or framed the problem statement? I think you did rather poorly with your problem statement. Like MEC hinted, the trick with pitching is to understand exactly how much is relevant per available time. So when you have a 30 seconds for a pitch, there are certain things to include in that 30 seconds pitch and forget about the rest. When you have 1 minute, there are certain things to include and forget about the rest. When you have 5 minutes, there are certain things to include and remove the rest. So the point is, if you spend enough time with me in office hours, you will discover that I am very big on problem framing, because framing the problem sets up either success or failure for your business from the beginning. I'm going to give you a 2 because, sorry about that, generator commander. I'm going to give you a 2 because of the fact that I had to imply what the problem was from your solution statement. Imagine instead that you had opened with a pitch like, hello everyone, Mr. XYZ is a solution provider in XYZ market who is facing the following challenges. Miss ABC is a client in the following segment of the market who is facing the following challenges. These 2 people are together losing 300 million naira per annum due to these challenges. My solution is here to blah, 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 blah. Does that make some sense? So for that reason, I'm giving you a 2. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, ID. Everyone there. Okay, so let me move on to Miracle.
Hi. Sorry, my internet went off. I didn't know what I scored. The second one.
Okay, you scored 2 in the second one.
Okay.
Okay, so Miracle, are you ready?
Yes.
So your time starts now.
Hi, my name is my company Chase Crawl is developing a mobile application to help event attendees within the ages of 18 and 50 with a more more efficient platform to shop for events, and also to bridge the gaps between event organizers and attendees, and increasing engagement through group chat, one-to-one chat, video and picture sharing. Thank you.
Are you guys doing something with 30 seconds? All of you are skipping to the 30 seconds. Great, though. Okay, Faiz. Katie, Faiz and Katie.
Hello?
Yeah, Faiz.
Miracle, you obviously didn't utilize your 1 minute to, to explain about the problem. Just like I did, just get feedback. Honestly, I don't know. You mentioned about shopping for events. So what's really the problem? Who has a problem to shop for events? I didn't really get what kind of event. Is it a party? Is it a tech gathering? Is it, so what's, is it wedding? And you didn't really, even in terms of, the solution, maybe you are trying to give a platform where people can maybe kind of organize and invite people for events. So how is that different from me using a social media platform to do that? What have you been able to achieve so far in terms of traction, and what's your own differentiation? So I think a lot of information really is missing. I don't know if the rating is not on the screen. I'm thinking, is it a 1 or even is it a 2 or a 1? For this.
Okay. Katie, can you help us with the rating up there?
Probably, I think I'll go.
My rating would be a 2.
Okay. Katie, you're saying 2?
Yes.
Faiz, what are you rating him?
I give him a 1, because honestly,
Okay.
I can't even decide if it has a potential or not.
Okay. Okay. Katie, you want to make some comments on your rating?
Yes, I mean, I think that, as my predecessor said, events is a huge space. And so, maybe if you choose a particular niche within the event space, there's something really special and important that you could do there. You just need to clarify what that would be. So, in some places they talk about that as choosing your beachhead. And what they mean by that is if you were to pick from among the various options, which event space makes the most sense for you to start in, and there are any number of reasons, any number of criteria you could look at, for what would make the most sense. Is there an underserved event space where people are currently doing things in a very cumbersome way? So that would cause me to ask you, I mean, what attracted you to this idea in the first place? But potentially there's a problem that you experience, to put that into your 1 minute pitch. Where did the notion that this is a good business idea come from? Did you see something that makes this make sense? And then if you were to choose a niche to start with, of course, you want to go in and start to do some customer validation, and your learning from that is something you would plug in your pitch as well. And when I say customer validation, of course, I'm talking about getting out there and talking to the stakeholders involved in the particular event space that you want to start on first. So I think my predecessor kind of said all the critical things to say. Number one, what type of events are you talking about? You need to clarify that for yourself, and make sure you articulate that in your pitch. And then from there, of course, you want to be very, very clear in how you demonstrate that it makes sense for you to pursue that, so those would be my reasons for it too. I think there's potential there depending on what event space you're focused on.
Okay, thanks, Katie. That's wonderful there. Lawrence Ata. Lawrence.
Okay, sorry, I was having network issue. Okay. My company, Lotus Spot Technologies Limited, is developing an escrow payment service called Paylidate to protect buyers and sellers from loss during transactions online. I've experienced firsthand the effect of poorly managed online transactions, like how vulnerable a buyer is when dealing with a dishonest vendor, or how disadvantaged a vendor is when they use cash on delivery method. I've set up a team of equally passionate members focused on solving the problem with the most user-friendly and effective solution, with a focus on facilitating seamless refunds, dispute management, and sales optimization for users. I'm a salesperson with experience in business development and project management. My co-founders are both developers with experience from 2 leading tech companies in Nigeria. We have built an MVP and we have an active community of over 150 users so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lawrence. Ido and Katie? Ido and Katie, can you help Katie will you help the feedback? Ido?
Ladies first.
Okay, ladies first.
All right.
I love that.
Sure, I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to give a 4 here because I have experienced the problem firsthand, and I know it's a real pain point, and there are already vendors addressing this issue. There are vendors like eLancer and eGuru who are kind of dealing with this many years ago. And I think where I see a big opportunity is for that same model to be applied in new markets, and that seems to be exactly what you are bringing to your context. So I think that the concept has a lot of potential, and obviously you have some traction to prove it. I think, I mean, you and I spoke earlier today in office hours, so I'm a little bit biased perhaps because I'm aware of some things you didn't say in your pitch, like the fact that you have these really important partnerships that I think lend strength and credibility to your business. And I would encourage you to name drop. I think you should name drop in your 1 minute and point those out, because those also demonstrate, just the progress that you've made as an entrepreneur, and the fact that, if you've gotten the trust and faith of some very large entities, you're probably going places, or at least that's the message it sends. So I think it's important for you to do that name dropping in your pitch. I think, critical questions that you're wanting to address going forward is how do you scale up the number of active users? And I think you have some strategies in mind for how to do that. So I'm giving you a 4. Turn over to Ido.
Quite generous of you, Ido.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Shegun. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
To be clear, maybe this will, the founders that pitch from this point on might benefit from this. But I have something like a rubric, like a metric for measuring this early stage, everything before MIR.
Okay.
I analyze problem framing.
Okay.
To what degree do you frame the problem? I analyze solution description. To what degree does the solution fit the stated problem? And then I analyze market potential, which is what I was saying earlier, that if you have 1 minute for a pitch, it makes sense to make sure that you quickly mention just enough information about these 3 topics that the mentor or the audience or the investor is interested enough to ask you follow-on questions and ask you to come out to coffee or come to their office for a follow-on meeting. In terms of the problem framing, I liked your problem framing. I think it was succinct. You have good points for me there. in terms of the solution description, I like that as well. But I didn't hear you talk about, instead of talking about the team, I would have preferred that you spoke about the market potential, because you have only 1 minute to catch my attention. And at the end of the day, even if a problem is well framed and it is a beautiful solution, as an investor, if it does not have market potential, I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay, so please pay attention to these 3 things. For this reason, I am giving you a 4, but if there was something like a 4 minus or a very 3.9995, something like that. But you know, just because there is no 3, you are going to get a 4. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ID. Abubakar, I missed you. Please, I needed to fill in something on this guy. Abubakar.
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, well done, Lawrence. And I think in addition to what the others did, which was stick to the Mad Libs template that they had been given, you went a step further to give a story about your solution. I like the fact that you started with a connection to the problem itself, talked about, of course, the solution you're proposing, but also talked about the team. I am not really bothered in the same way as my colleague is, you know, about the fact that he didn't hear about the market potential, because from what I'm noticing right now is that you're in the very early stage as a company. But I like the fact that you've assembled a team that seem to know what they're doing. And if you didn't have information about the market potential, the first thing I'd say is make sure that by the time I say, have a conversation with me for the next 5 minutes, that's the next thing you're going to say. So it's very important, but I wouldn't say, like, you know, and I beg him to just allow you take a 4 and go, because that's what I'm also giving you. It's huge potential, and I hope that the other people going forward will try to do the same. Use the Mad Libs template to introduce the problem and solution, and then tell us a little background about why you're solving this problem and what it is you're trying to solve. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for the thumbs up.
Thank you. Okay, so I actually had it, but I just omitted it because I've not had anybody talk about it, and it was linked to an ask for us. So I just took it out because of for this purpose. Yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Lawrence, you are enjoying yourself, right?
All right.
You had an all-round 4.
No, not really. No, sir. I'm actually going to be aiming for a 5, actually. So.
Oh, love that. Okay, so let's watch out this coming. John, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Are you aiming for a 5 too?
Yes, 5 minus. Let me be modest.
5 minus. Okay, start now. The time starts now.
Hi, my name is John. My company Shakambango is developing schoolmates to help secondary schools in Nigeria to manage their online resources, including managing their information, by developing a school management system, which we built as a software as a service, offered completely free of cost to every secondary school in the country, because most schools cannot afford one. The total addressable market is 56 million users. You can consider us the Facebook of secondary schools. Our secret sauce is a bottom-top approach to entering the market. We're building an online directory of all secondary schools in the country to stamp our authority in the market, and thereby after then offer upgrades and cross-sells and premium IT services. We currently have 3,000 monthly web visitors with 0 marketing budget. We received a $5,000 grant from Tony Elumelu and 3,000 from friends and family. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We're all keeping to time. That's great. Abubakar, help me with that. Abubakar and Faiz, please help me with that.
Okay, so well done, John. Usually this is how these things flow. You have to feel sorry for the people who went first, because they usually make the mistakes and then other people learn from it and build on it. So it's good to see that we're getting better as it's going. I like the fact that you mentioned traction, which is what I haven't heard from the others really. Traction is good. We've mentioned not only number of web visitors, but also the grant you've secured and things like that. These are all things that tick the box when an investor looks at to know that other people are interested and there's something attracting also, but also to look at the market. I also think that you're very lucky because I think your entrepreneur in residence is someone who's also in EdTech, and I urge you to make the best advantage of having someone like that on the team that will be advising you. So congratulations and well done. I'm giving you a 4 again because I still know that there's a bit that could have added to that, especially around why you want to do this. And also because I hate hearing Facebook of so, or so that got you a negative mark. So, but well done so far.
Okay. Faiz?
Yeah, so I think Abubakar has let the cat out of the bag, and I might be a bit biased because this EdTech and something I am interested in. But nonetheless, I think it was a good pitch, able to, to say a lot about the traction, the potential, and so on. And I think what you didn't really put out very well is the problem. So, but based on the business model you explained, I think you are trying to create more of, I believe you want to make it more social. So people of that demography, maybe that will be the attraction, and you want to get users, and you were able to mention the business model as well, where you'll be upselling and offer premium services, and probably even, ads can also be another revenue stream you can look at. So yeah, I will give you a 4, and I really want us to have a coffee and discuss more about this. Is in line with what we do, and also things we might be interested in investing if it has that potential.
Okay. So you're giving me 4 too. Yemisi?
Yeah.
Yemisi?
Yes, hi, I'm here. I was just really making notes. It sounds like a really interesting idea. I didn't really hear much about revenue generation. I know it's just 30 seconds and he did an amazing job. However, I didn't really hear much about revenue generation. What I heard was offering it for free. So I was going to ask, is this an NGO? Is this a social enterprise? But I think Mr. Faiz mentioned how he heard about the business model and upselling services. I don't know, perhaps that was in the notes because I didn't really hear that in the pitch that was made. But it was a really good idea, and I would definitely love to learn more and potentially work with this founder. So I gave him a 4.
A 4?
Yes.
I think I was probably unfair on those ones who started.
Yeah.
They got into the pits, and now these ones are learning from their mistakes and working on. Anyway, it's a good one. Mustafa Ango, are you ready for us? I shouldn't be asking if you're ready. Mustafa Ango, you're going next.
I think Mustafa dropped out.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Okay. Which team is in? Mustafa Ango, what's supposed to be where?
Enforcers.
Okay, was supposed to be with the enforcers. Great. Abubakar, you're also in the enforcers, right? So take his place. Speech.
I had a feeling that could happen.
you know it would happen, and it has happened. So you're ever ready.
Okay. Could I get the format, please?
Okay. Catherine, could you help with the format display? You should have that in your head by now. You should have it offhand.
Sure. Let me give it a go.
Okay. Your time starts now.
My company, Outliers, is creating an online learning website to help unemployed graduates start successful SME businesses while positioning them for funding. I'm done.
That's all.
Yeah, that's all.
I didn't even realize you're done.
I had a question in the group because I remembered the Mad Libs format is meant to be a 1-sentence pitch. So
Okay.
I was a bit confused, seeing as you guys are saying it should be 1 minute long. So I was just curious how you could basically expand a pitch that's 1 sentence to a minute. So I was just preparing for the template
Okay,
was
great.
given.
But before any of the mentors respond to that, Ido, can you just give us like a 2 minutes? Ido, just a 2-minute thing on the Mad Libs. Ido.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay, so give us something. Talk to us about the Mad Libs.
The
2
Mad
minutes,
Libs
please.
for Abubakar.
Yeah.
The Mad Libs. Okay. All right. So,
and all founders, please listen to this very well. Go on, please.
So the Mad Libs. So I don't think that it's necessarily 1 minute. I think that it's more tuned. If you practice it well enough, you can deliver the Mad Libs in about 15 seconds. Okay. However, the 30 seconds or the 1 minute that you've been given today, if I were in your shoes, I would consider it a blessing. One of the previous mentors had said that they liked the fact that that particular founder at that point satisfied the requirements of the Mad Libs and then went ahead and provided further context. Again, it comes back to that point I made earlier about having some kind of contextual understanding of what are the most cogent bits of information I must convey if I have only 15 seconds to grab this person's attention versus if I have 60 seconds for 1 minute versus if I have 300 seconds for 5 minutes. So in a sense, that's like my own personal interpretation of the Mad Libs. The Mad Libs is incredibly useful when you are trying to summarize your idea. But in a pitch like this, I think that those who have taken initiative to go beyond it are those that will score the better points from us, the mentors. Thank you.
Okay, great. And also, I just want to educate us a bit also, just to buttress what Idea said. A pitch is, it's called an elevator pitch. You could imagine yourself in an elevator with going up to the 10th floor, and then you get into the elevator with a founder and a potential investor, and he just wants to quickly get down on the 5th floor. So you have going from the ground floor to the 5th floor to explain to him whether he should invest or not. There are certain information you want him to know. Now, typically, you'd always start with the market because that's where the market starts from. Of course, you introduce yourself, what you're offering, talk about the market. What you say, the Mad Libs is just a template. What you say must be in relation to the time you have. So if you have, like we gave you guys 1 minute, it's always a 1 minute. And some of you at the beginning, the earlier guys ended in 30 seconds. Then by the time we got to Lawrence decided to do about 40 seconds or so. So you could see that it packed more content. And I just also want to tell you this, when mentors begin to ask you, what is your idea about? There's a problem with your pitch. If your pitch is, resounding and it, hits the point, there'll be less questions for you. They would just understand. Start from the market. Tell them about the problem in the market. Tell them about the solution you're offering. If you have people who have become attracted to it, you could mention names. Like, let me see, I think, okay, it was Katie who said, drop some names if you need to, just to validate what you already have. And by the time the investor hears that this is a problem in the market and this app will solve that problem, and I've already gotten X number of people online, he becomes interested in investing. So please, that will help us for subsequent pitches. Miracle, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I was they were asking what type of event. This is the first time I'm hearing, but if an event is an event, it's either wedding, So an event is overall an event, you know. And again, if I also use the video by Adjuresi. So exactly what this person called out. So when you check the video, he was just calling out that, you know, you should be able to, so I follow that pattern. But when you watch
Oh, you're breaking.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Okay, can hear you now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I use that video to, like, you know, check it out, and then, you know, if you check, there was a way, but anyways, I get what everybody's saying about adding more information to it. But again, I just want to clarify that an event is an event. It doesn't, there's no way to break down an event. Thank you.
Okay, but just note that you used Katie, you want to say something?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just gonna jump in there and challenge your thinking a little bit, Miracle. You know, an event is not just an event. You know, there's a big difference between a corporate conference, you know, versus a women's meditation circle. These are both events, but when it becomes time for you to engage your target customer, it's going to be very difficult for you to get traction in the market if you're not really clear and specific about, you know, who are the people who I'm solving a problem for? Where do they hang out? So that when I go to market, I'll be able to find them. You know, so part of why, you know, one school of thought, I mean, of course, Miracle, at the end of the day, you are the founder, so you make your decision about how, you know, you approach, you know, going to market. What I would invite you to consider doing is picking a sub-segment of that universe of events, because it's going to make it a lot easier for you to build the kind of traction on which you can build a business. If you just go after events broadly, you're not really going to be speaking to anybody in a way where they feel like, wow, he's really talking to me and he's really addressing my problem. So let me go there because he knows exactly what I want. In order for you to have customers put money down for what you're doing, so that you can build a business off of it, you need to be a bit or a lot more specific. You know, because what you're going to say to me as a corporate entity based in Abuja is going to be quite different from what you'll say to me as, you know, a woman looking for virtual. I'm an African woman in the Middle East. You know, maybe I want virtual events to do with meditation involving other African women. That's going to be the way that you're going to engage me as a user is going to be totally different. So that's why we're trying to support you to understand that you need to get more specific. So I hope that sheds some light on why it's important to choose, because your risk, if you don't choose, is that you're not going to be able to develop marketing messages that resonate enough that you can make sales on whatever it is you're trying to sell.
Okay, great. Yemisi, I know you're something of an events person too.
Yeah, so I was just saying, because we've managed events for a number of local and international clients, and I really like the idea because it's a real problem, but there are not a lot of events management platforms in Nigeria. And Casey has answered excellently. I would just like to say, I don't think anybody is here to attack you. I think the sessions are set up to really bring you to that place of clarity and give you the information that you need to grow your business. So don't take any feedback as an attack on your idea, because I know sometimes our ideas are very precious to us. And so when people question things, it's like they are attacking us, and we don't see it as providing feedback to help growth. An event is not an event, like you said it. It's actually not. Casey has answered excellently, so I would not go over what she has said again. I'm just saying, I think I'll just say, please, the feedback that you're getting is not an attack on your person, on your identity. It's just really to give you the support and information you need to grow successful business.
Yeah, I'm sure Miracle knows that. You know, he was just trying to clarify. And I'm sure mentors, please, your office hours, let's book them. We see some of these challenging questions and all that. Let's book office hours, discuss on some of these objectives for this session. So please, Founders also, please connect to one of these people and an officer and see more things. Okay, so generally, founders, I think we're done with the hot seat for now till next week. So, but for now, let's move on to the next session. Mentors presentation. Mentors presentation. Mentors, I can't knock you off, but I'll probably want to knock you off. The mentors presentation is for admit. Catherine, please, could you put up the agenda? 8 to 10 minutes, right? 8 to 10 minutes for mentors presentation.
5 to 8.
5 to 8 minutes. Okay.
5 to 8. 5 to 8. 5 to 8.
Okay, you were told 15. Now you have to pitch.
We have 6 mentors.
Adjust your pitch.
Yeah, but I've got to make slides and everything.
ID, what's the problem? ID, what's the problem?
Oh, okay. You have slides. Okay. Who else?
It's fine. I can probably go through like the key points. I had a feeling this was going to happen, so I prepared for. I have a plan B, so it's okay.
Okay, I want to start with. I know ID, so I'll go in this order. ID is a friend, so I can silence him when he goes beyond the time. So I want to start with him. So I'm sure when I become add on ID, every other person would know that I mean it when I say 8 minutes. So ID first, then we'll take the ladies, Yemisi and Ketty, then Faiz, and then I'll close with Abubakar. I hope it's fine with us.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, so ID, you're up.
I guess it's time to bite my own bullets, to take my own.
I see your slides are like 1,000 slides. Your time starts now.
Most likely, I'm not going to use the slides. I'll send you the slides after. I'm just going to go to one slide and tell a small story. And I think that this story, I hope that I will be able to deliver as much as a message. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you a story called the Danfo Dilemma. Is there anybody here that is not Nigerian that doesn't know what a Danfo bus is? I don't think so. Are we all Nigerians? Hi, Ketty. Ketty, where are you from?
We have Ando. Ando is Ghanaian, but Ghanaian, okay. I'm sure he knows. Ando knows what a Danfo is.
Okay. Quick introduction. The Danfo is an 18-seater, a 16 to 18-seater passenger bus found in Lagos. They are all over Lagos. You cannot talk about the hustle and the bustle of Lagos without talking about the Danfo bus. Okay. So something happened. Last year, I left Lagos to go to Boston, to go to Harvard specifically for a double master's in innovation and entrepreneurial studies, okay, entrepreneurial management, okay. I got back last month, okay. So I have been equipped with the world-class skills, with the skills for building world-class digital innovations from one of the best schools in the world. So my expertise in building digital solutions is not in doubt. I just got back last month. However, yesterday, so between last month and today, I have been kind of in a state of flux, just thinking, okay, now I'm back. I have all these tools at my disposal. What am I going to do? I'm scanning the environment for problems to solve because I have the tools to solve any kind of problem. But yesterday, I was driving around Maryland, okay, in Lagos State, Maryland bus stop in Lagos. And I saw the situation that is captured on the screen. I saw a bus full of passengers that had stopped mid-journey because it had run out of fuel. And suddenly my memory triggered and I remembered, oh my God, 30-something years ago, 40-something years ago, probably even before I was born, this problem used to exist because I remember that when I was a child, going about with my parents, we used to have this problem. And I can see the same frustration in the faces of the passengers if you look at the picture. And I suddenly remember, oh my God, if this problem has existed for so long, it must be a big pressing problem. At this point, I have two choices. I now decide I'm going to solve this problem. I have two choices. Approach one, and I'd like you to pay attention. Option one, I'd like you to pay attention. Option one, I can get back to my office the next morning, wear my fancy suit and tie, pull out the digital whiteboard, pull out the projector, get one of my staff to go and do some research on statista.com, worldbank.org, and find all sorts of data sets that describe Baba Moshood. Baba Moshood is a typical Lagos Danfo driver. I can do that approach. With that approach, I can remotely build a solution that addresses my perceived problem or the problem that I have perceived that Baba Moshood has. Approach one, please keep it in your left hand, Nigerian language, okay? Approach two, I can wear a t-shirt and jeans and resume the next morning at 6 a.m. at Ikeja bus stop with Baba Moshood, okay? And tell him, hey, Baba Moshood, don't worry about me. I am paying for the 2 front seats in your bus. I am a fly on your wall. Do your business as if I don't exist. I'm paying for those 2 seats for the next 4 weeks. I go into that bus with my pen and paper. And as Baba Moshood takes 8 trips from Lagos, from Ikeja bus stop to CMS bus stop, I am making observations on my paper. As Baba Moshood, so it happened that 2 days after we started this business, this approach, we were coming back from the island one day from CMS to Ikeja, and at Anthony, we saw road safety, or if you know Lagos very well, we saw VIO officials on the road. And Baba Moshood cursed under his breath. He said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry for my language." He said, "Oh my God, these crazy people have come again," because he can see them in the distance and he cannot escape them. Now they are traffic enforcers. So that's number one. As he makes that curse, I don't edit that curse. I don't make it polite. I don't dilute it. I don't dilute the potency of that expression by Baba Moshood. I make sure I capture it. As Baba Moshood is going again, and he's going to fix the tires or the brakes on his bus, and the mechanic is trying to defraud him, and he curses the mechanic, I'm writing it down. Now, guess what is going to happen? Over 4 weeks of close contact immersion into Baba Moshood's world, I am going to come out with a lot of observations, especially along 4 key dimensions. What is Baba Moshood seeing in his world? What is Baba Moshood saying out of his mouth? What is he thinking and what is he doing? Those 4 key dimensions are important. We'll come back to them later. They're called the empathy map. Now, approach 1. Now, this is my question, and I'd like you to type into the chat box for me. Which of these 2 approaches do you think will help me? Remember that I just got back from Harvard and I have the tools verified by the best school in the world for building a world-class solution. However, I have 2 options. I could have remotely built a solution without ever talking to Baba Moshood, or I could have suppressed my world-class skills for just a minute, immersed myself in Baba Moshood's world to get how he sees the world, and then start to make product development decisions based on the summaries that I have, based on the observations I have made about Baba Moshood's daily lives. Which of these 2 approaches would you feel confident can help you build a $1 million business, the kind of business FI is helping you to build? I'm going to open up the chat now. I'd like to see number two. I see 5 number 2s. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, just in case you have ever wondered, for those of you that are non-tech people here, just in case you have ever wondered about the definition of design thinking, I hereby introduce to you Idowu Akinde's informal version of design thinking. Approach 2 is design thinking. What is design thinking? I belong to the old school developer generation. I used to write software applications back in the day, and we used to build applications the first way. But design thinking emphasizes that we empathize with the customer, first of all, before running to the studio, the development studio, to build out based on our assumptions. So approach 2 says, hello, development world of developers, world of innovators, world of startup founders. Please, at the beginning of your venture, suppress all your assumptions and seek for validation of those assumptions before you start to invest in product development. I hope I have not used up 8 minutes, but this is the downfall dilemma.
You've actually used up 7 minutes already.
Awesome. I will try and skip through the slides. So, so I have this, so that's outline who, what, and why, how, and what next. So what is customer development? Customer development, I will send you the slides. Don't worry about this. Worry about this one. Customer development is an approach that helps you validate assumptions early, and you contrast that with how we dinosaurs used to build software back in the day, where we go to market and go into our cocoon, our hibernation, with our assumptions and build solutions according to those assumptions, okay? There's something called the Customer Development Manifesto. I'll send you these slides, but I just want to mention one or two things. Number one, there are no facts inside your building. Get out, number one. Number two, no business plan survives first contact with customers. So please remember that as you plan your business, on day one of launch, your business plan is obsolete. Number three, adopt an experimentation mindset. Adopt a hypothesis mindset. In the world of startup building, experimentation is more valuable than assertion. Okay, curiosity is more valuable than knowledge. Are we together? And this is a typical typical problem for smart people all over the world. Smart people, by definition, everybody in this room, I'm sorry to say so, automatically fall for the temptation to quickly build a solution based on their assumptions. It takes a lot of internal fortitude to subject yourself to validate that this vulcanizer I saw on my way to work yesterday, I saw him, he doesn't look like he has health insurance. Let me try and build a health insurance solution for him. How do you know that that is actually important to him? Okay, blah, 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 blah. The benefits of doing this. Number one, like I said before, I'll just mention number two, and I'll give you the slides to relate on the others. When you do customer development early in your product development lifecycle, you save yourself the regret of investing in customer development directions that use up your capital. It is after you have used up available capital to you. Remember that capital is cash, intellectual, social, political, and all sorts of capital put together. If you use up all that capital, building a solution that you think will appeal to your customers, but after you have built it, your customers look at it and they install it once and they never use it again, you've used up that capital. So you want to make sure that you optimize the availability of that capital that is available to you. Remember again, that capital is not just cash. Sometimes you may not have a second opportunity to walk up to some people that lend you credibility, social capital, some people that lend you political capital, and so on and so forth. Okay, how do you do customer, and I'm going to stop on this, how do you do customer development? 3-step process from me. Customer validation, I know that there's an official step, but this is my own process because it's easy to assimilate. 3-step process: customer validation, problem validation, and solution validation. This is kind of similar to what Shegun mentioned earlier when talking about the Mad Libs, when he spoke about validating the market first. What is a market? A market is the space where your customers exist. The industry is the space where your competitors exist. So technically speaking, this is market validation, problem validation, solution validation. There's market sizing later on, but we're not there yet. Under customer validation, the key things you want to do here are you want to build accurate. Remember, I mentioned that I will go with my biro and paper. When I come back to my office after that 4-week session, I'm going to convert all those insights, put it on a whiteboard or a mind map, and extract common themes from those observations. Baba Moshi does not care about this problem that the downfall stops mid-journey, but the following 1, 2, 3 are his problems that he cares about. In Baba Moshood's worldview, if I were to rank all the problems in his life, this problem of a journey being truncated midway is actually number 99 out of his 100 problems. However, what are the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It is this immersion principle that can help you extract those kinds of insights from Baba Moshood. Are we together? I don't want to spend too much time. Number 2, you already know what that is. Surveys. Contact with the customers to get it out. But how do you do surveys? So there is some kind of iterative process here. And this is what the second thing does. You go through a certain sequence. The first question the first assumption to validate is, Baba Moshood, is this a problem for you at all? That's number one. Number two, even if this is a problem, do you care about this problem? Now, I don't want to go into too much that digression, but there's something called the pain meter. Is it a 2 out of 10 on Baba Moshood's pain meter, or is it a 9 out of 10? If it's a 2 out of 10, Baba Moshood will agree with you that it's a problem to him, but it's not a problem that matters enough, because everybody can bear with a 2 out of 10 problem. But anybody that has a 9 out of 10 problem, like fuel scarcity in Nigeria, will be willing to pay money to you in exchange to solve that problem. Okay, so you take that knowledge and you go away and build something that looks like a prototype. Then you come back and say, so I'm sorry. Number one, validate that he's worth chasing. Number two, validate that he has the problem. Validate that he cares enough about the problem. Number three, validate that he cares enough about that problem to exchange money with you. If you were building an NGO, I'm going to stop now. If you're building an NGO, it would be perfect for you to build solutions that people don't have to pay you for. But you are all trying to build $1 million companies that FI is investing resources in. And that is the reason why you need to validate early on that your customers have a painful enough problem that they will exchange money with you when you come to them and present solution. So look at the last point there. Repeat 6 and 7 until your customer asks you, where have you been all my life? Oh my God, please. This problem, this solution you just described, I need it tomorrow. I need it today. When is it going to be ready? Oh, it won't be ready for 6 months. Don't worry, I will pay. I want to be the first user of this your product. I want to pay today. You said you'll be ready in 6 months, and I want to pay. That is the holy grail of product development. That's the holy grail of startup building. You want to build a product that your customers cannot do without. Okay, I've spent too much time. Solution development, I'll send you the slides. Please meet me in office hours and we can talk about the details. Thank you very much.
Great one, ID. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you. Okay, Yemisi. By the way, founders, if you have questions, we'll have a Q&A session afterwards, or you could quickly drop them in the chat, and the mentors will be reading the questions. So when that time comes, you could they'll respond. Yemisi, you're up next.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ido, for that amazing presentation. He touched on a number of things I was going to share. So I had to go through my slides to see which one he had not mentioned. All right. So one thing that I realized when working with a number of founders is not knowing the difference between beneficiaries and customers. And so when carrying out your customer validation, it's very important to know this person that I am immersing myself into, is this person going to be a beneficiary of the product, or are they going to be a paying customer? All right, so a beneficiary would pretty much, as the word says, just derive benefit from the product or service. Why a paying customer is a person who actually pays for the product or service. It may not always be the one deriving benefit from it. And it's so important to know the difference between these two, because that would influence your method of communication. Even when you're creating your empathy map or your buyer persona, you're very clear on who you have in mind. Are you creating it? Most likely it should be for the paying customer. All right, so and a good example of this is edutech companies. So right now there are a number of edutech companies springing up in Nigeria. There are also a number of organizations providing career support. And one thing that I have realized is people want to jump into this thing. So somebody is providing CV review, CV writing, all of those, and you don't realize that the bulk of their revenue is coming from third parties paying these organizations to deliver the service to young people as a form of their CSR. So you have the passion for a similar business and you're building a similar business and you're trying to generate revenue from the young people who have very low purchasing power without realizing that these people are beneficiaries of this service, but in this particular industry, they are mainly just beneficiaries. They are usually not paying customers. So that is so key. I was going to talk about competitor research as a way to carry out customer development. If there is still some time, we will go through that as well. So Mr. Idowu has already spoken about the buyer persona and the empathy map. So I think I'll just keep that and perhaps come back to it later. Another model that I have found to be very useful is the why model. Okay, because you can create a questionnaire for customers to fill, and they'll probably just see phone numbers, all of this. But finding a way to actually engage with somebody within your target market group and getting to the roots of the problem they are facing that you plan to solve for them would improve your chances of creating a product that creates an emotional connection. All right, so let me give an example, for instance. So I work with an amazing, or let's use an example from one of you. So I think, who did the events management? Was that Miracle or Lawrence? I can't
That was
remember.
Miracle. It was Miracle.
Miracle, okay. So Miracle owns an events management platform where people can host their events, sell tickets, manage communication with vendors, and so on. Miracle has the vision to solve, make events seamless to organize and profitable for event organizers. All right, so Miracle can approach somebody who organizes events like myself or helps organizations organize and execute events, and can ask the person, so if Miracle comes to me and he asks me, what is your vision for this event? Or what is your vision for event management or creation in 2023? And I can say, my vision is to make, say, $2 million in, or let's be very realistic. My vision is to create $100,000 in revenue from ticket sales. And Miracle can ask, why have you not achieved this before now? And I can say, oh, I do not have the time to manage all the logistics of managing an event that would generate that level of revenue. And he could go, oh, why do you not have the time? And then the questions I'm asking, going deeper and asking why, it will help him realize the root cause of whatever problem I may be facing related to event generation. And then that would now influence his product development. Because the businesses, like Mr. Idowu mentioned, if you're not able to create that emotional connection with your customer in terms of the problem that you're solving for them, or even in terms of how your product or your service is being delivered, you will really struggle to generate revenue. And one way to actually create this emotional connection is by understanding the root cause of the problem. Okay, so I'm just going through my notes to see something that's all right, fantastic. There is this amazing quote that I saw yesterday on Twitter, and I was like, oh, this is very, very perfect for this conversation that we're having today. Because one thing that I realized, again, I think I mentioned it to someone earlier, is to really fall in love with the problem more than you're falling in love with the products that you're trying to create. Because by the time you go through customer validation, you may realize this problem that I want to solve is a valid need. However, the way that I'm trying to solve it is not what my customers need. It's not appropriate for my customers. And if you're more committed to the product than to solving the problem, you may find yourself in a business that is not growing. You're not onboarding customers. You're not generating revenue at the rates that you are supposed to. Okay, so let me quickly run through and see if, I think I'm going to leave it there. I could share a link for the empathy map. I think it's an amazing system to use to understand your customers, really getting to empathize with them and understand things from their perspective. It's so, so key. So there are two main tools to identify and understand your customers. The first one is the buyer persona. So with that, you get to personify your target audience, your typical target customer. And the second one is the empathy map, which Mr. Idowu has done so well in going through. So I'm just going to use my remaining 3 minutes to walk through the buyer persona. All right, so with the buyer persona, you look at who are your customers, what does their day-to-day look like, what do they value? And the thing, like Mr. Ido mentioned, is to truly really understand your customers and what they need and the problem that you're really solving for them. If you start a business without doing this, you would really struggle, because with a lot of the clients that I have worked with, we realized that even if they've started their business, by the time we go back to market validation, problem validation, understanding who their customers are, it now influences their marketing. It influences how they're able to communicate their ideas. It influences how they're able to communicate the problem that they are solving for these customers and create an emotional connection, which then leads to an increase in revenue. So it's so key to be able to understand very deeply as possible, who these people are. So this is just a short guide in creating your customer persona. You can come up with a name. So we usually create a canvas, we have the name, a picture of what they look like. Then you think about what is the typical age of my customer. And you can have different customer segments, right? So you typically have different buyer persona for the different customer segments that you have. But I would usually suggest not more than 3. So it's not very confusing. And then your message is more broad than specific, creating results. All right, so I'm going to stop here now, and I will be sending my slide across as well.
Thanks, MEC. Good one. I think we're getting, founders, we're getting so much on understanding customers. Katie, are you ready?
I am ready. So I'm probably, yes, I'll probably be a little bit more brief than my counterparts. I'd like to share a cautionary tale. I'm calling it a tale, but it's actually a true story from a couple of years ago here in Qatar. We had 2 entrepreneurs who wanted to be the Uber of home maintenance services. You know, the pain point that they identified for homeowners was just the difficulty of finding plumbers, home repair, and other general sort of odd jobs in the home related to repairs, and the difficulty of finding quality services around that in Qatar. If you can imagine, one entrepreneur, a Pakistani gentleman, was the son of the wealthiest or most successful, the owner of the most successful construction company in Qatar. And I'm sure you can imagine what that means, given that we're hosting the World Cup this year. You know, so tremendous resources, and they had a lot of MEP professionals on their projects. So what that means is they had a lot of mechanics, electricians, plumbers who had been mobilized to work on company projects. And his father offered those personnel at his disposal to use within his company. Another entrepreneur, Qatari gentleman, wanted to serve the same space and the same problem. Perhaps didn't have the same resources, although well off. And what ended up happening, one of the entrepreneurs made the decision to do this customer development process that we're talking about. The other one did what Ido described as option 1, very sharp guy, senior position within his father's company, director of operations. Oops, sorry, there's a bit of background noise. I can hear some honking horns back there. If someone wouldn't mind just muting their line. So essentially, you know, the gentleman who had all the resources available, he invested $100,000 US in building essentially the Uber of home repairs. And I have to say, it was a beautiful application. At the time I met him, I was approaching him to invite him to go through the Lean Startup program that I was involved with, which is essentially a 6-week program in order to do your customer development. He said, no, I don't need that. I've got a developer in Russia. I know what I want to do. It's clear this is a problem. Thank you, but no thank you. He went off. He built his application. It looked really smooth and sleek. He had all the resources he needed. He paid out of pocket, so he paid in cash. He had the developer build this application. He had all the resources. He failed. His company failed. He went on to pivot and move into a different direction and ended up succeeding the next time, but his company failed. The other entrepreneur did their customer development. They went out and they spoke to their target customers. Till this day, they bring additional services. And so what I want to offer to you is what made these two entrepreneurs experience such radically different results. The answer is in what Ido talked about. The answer is in what Yemisi talked about. It is that one entrepreneur having a great deal of confidence and well-deserved confidence in his intellect and in the resources he had at his disposal, just didn't think it was necessary to go and understand and watch his customers. The other entrepreneur did the work. They did the work. They spent the time to go and have conversations with customers. I mean, of course, as you've heard today, there are a variety of ways to discover your customers. You know, one is kind of the business, what some people call business anthropology, which I would say is more similar to what Ido talked about, sitting on the bus and watching every single detail that happens. This is a very, very important part of customer validation. It's also, you know, doing interviews directly with customers. And it's also doing the surveys and running experiments and things like that. You know, it's really, really critical that you use this time that you're in the FI program to be doing this type of discovery of your customers. What ended up happening with the gentleman with all of the resources, you know, he shared very transparently. Yeah, he essentially had a sunk cost, and he was actually trying to sell it up successfully, launching his business because it was a beautiful platform. But what he got wrong, Pakistani, is because in this context, that's significant. You know, in Qatar, you know, it's definitely a place that's very, very much driven by networks. It's driven by family relationships. And I think he didn't, if he had done effective customer discovery, that's something perhaps he would have leveraged within his solution. That's one part of it. But as well, you know, when I spoke to the very first screen of his application, had a picture of a Qatari person wearing Qatari traditional dress, looking over the shoulder of someone who was obviously from the Asian subcontinent and sort of inspecting his work. And the sense that Qataris had, and many people had, Qataris, non-Qataris alike, they felt like that picture was racist. Now, it's ironic, given that, you know, the creator of the solution himself was from the Asian subcontinent. What he failed to do was to understand in his context, how is that going to play? And if he had done some effective customer discovery, he would have tested how that image would have been received. So I know that sounds very specific and very niche, but I offer that to say, you know, you really, really, this is why it's really, really important for you to understand the nuances of your market. Something as simple as the image that you choose to put on the front of your application can be a make or break for you, especially in an era of cancel culture. So in our context, you know, entrepreneur number one over here ended up getting canceled effectively because he simply didn't take the time to understand his market. So I'm going to bottom line myself there and just offer to you that this is something that has really happened. You could have, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs come into this process thinking, all I need is the investment. If I could get the money, I can just build the solution and it's going to work. I really urge you, interacted with an entrepreneur who had every resource going for them, but because they did DIY, running the experiments, really using the startup phase to understand the problem solution fit, this is why, you know, we ended up with a situation where it was a sunk cost, $100,000 US thrown out the window. So anyway, so I bottom line myself there, and I resources with me. You know, I'm a big fan of the mom test. I strongly encourage you to listen to the audio book while you're running on the treadmill, while you're washing your dishes or whatever other mindless task you have in life. It's a wonderful resource to support you to understand how to ask questions that don't give you false positives. I'd also invite you to Google business anthropology. You know, you need to be an anthropologist watching your customers. For those of you who have web applications or even websites, there are tools like Hotjar. Go and watch how customers are interacting with your technology. It records hundreds of short videos of customers so that you can understand, okay, you know, when they click on your menu, what do they click on first? At what point are they leaving your application and say, okay, well, what if I change the color? What if I change the wording? How is that impacting the way that the customer interacts? So really, you know, if you can find a way to watch customers interacting with your solution, that's a great resource to look into. So I'm going to end my chat there. Would love to meet more of you in office hours, so please book time with me. And I turn back over to you, moderator. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Katie. By the way, on a lighter note, when you mentioned the World Cup in taking place, most of the guys here are like, Samuel will get you out of this room now because the Ghanaians kicked Nigerians out. So we're not going to be there. So Ando, believe me, I could just deal with you right now. But you know, this is a wonderful family. So I won't say anything to you. But right now, I'm telling you, just like that bus driver the who mentioned, a lot of the guys in this room right now are actually crossing you and like, see this Ghanaian, get him out of this place. Okay, so that is what. Faiz, give us your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
And also, please, if you have questions, I know we're getting a raise. There's so much information going and we're enjoying ourselves. So please, if you have questions, just drop them in. Faiz, sorry, back to you.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So I think a lot has been said about customer development already. Let me just add a few things from my own experience. In the last exercise, you've done a lot on vision and so on. And this is a quote from Steve Blank, who is actually, you know, I'll say the father of customer development. He wrote a book, 4 Steps to the Epiphany, which was the genesis of the Lean Startup, right, by Eric Ries. Eric is a student of Steve Blank, at Stanford University. So he says all new companies and new products begin with an almost mythological vision, a hope of what could be, with a goal few others can see. It is this bright and burning vision that differentiates the entrepreneur from big company CEOs and startups from existing businesses. So you can see as startups why you are really special. That vision, that exercise you've done, it's very powerful. It's not easy to keep that alive in a big company or an existing business. So, another question, we should ask ourselves is what is it that makes some startups successful and leaves others selling off their furniture, right? And of course, the answer is, the topic of discussion today. For me, I strongly believe it's about customer development. Honestly, and if you ask me what's the biggest challenge, for startups, right, or businesses, for me, it's customer development. This is something, you deal with every day. Today, in meetings, you have to keep explaining, this is what we have to do and so on. And the whole idea is you want to come with that thing that customers love, they really love. So actually, what startups do is all about searching, right? What's the customer's problem? What are they interested in? Remember, there are things you have control, and there are things you don't have control when you are running a business. Of course, you have control of who you want to hire or fire. You have control on how your processes in your company, what time people have to resume, and close and all those things. But as a business, what you don't have control is which customer is interested in what you are doing and is willing to pay. And that's what customer development, in a nutshell, if you are taking anything from today's session, it's all about what is it that, how do you get that thing that customers love and, are really, it becomes like if they don't do it, they are missing out. So quickly, the product development model, especially those of you that are in the software industry, it has been very popular. You think about the idea, you develop, you test and launch, right? Like the waterfall. And because from experience, Steve Blank, who had run several startups and failed and so on, realized that the main problem is because people focus on product development and they forget about testing the market and getting the customers early. When you launch, especially if you make a mistake and launch very big, then you will be in for shock and surprises from the feedback from the market. So the product development, if you focus too much on it without customer development, is really a path to disaster. When you focus too much on product development, you don't think about the market thing, the sales, hiring, customer acquisition, and so on. And that's what most, startups do, especially if we are fortunate to get investment early. Investment has its own cons, really. If you have money, sometimes you don't go through the hard work of getting customers, and you end up spending, hiring, VP of sales, hiring this top-notch engineer, furnishing your office with luxury furniture and so on. So that's really not what customer development is all about. So the product development has a lot of drawbacks, which because of time, I can't go in depth, but quickly, like I mentioned, for me, the biggest task for every startup is finding the customers. So with product development, you don't focus on where are the customers. So that's a big risk and will lead you to failure. And most times, people focus on first customer ship date. And thanks to Founder Institute, really, by the time you go through this program, you can't make these mistakes, right? Otherwise, you may, if you have access to money and so on, you focus on hiring, building this product, you don't talk to customers and so on, and you have a launch date ready to go big, launch with fanfare, give money to advertising agencies, consultants, and so on. And then the customers, this is not what they are looking for. Also emphasis on execution instead of learning and discovery. And one of the speakers mentioned the key thing about startups or customer development is experiment. You have to really understand that whatever you are doing is all about learning. You want to try, get early feedback, iterate, pivot, you are experimenting until you get to that market fit. And there's no focus on, meaningful sales, marketing, and business development milestones. You just come up with this 5-year projection. When I launch, the first 6 months, I get these customers, this revenue, and so on. Not meaningful milestone, not really engaging the market to find out, what are the real problems that exist, right? So these are all some of the drawbacks using PD model to measure sales, to measure marketing, premature scaling. Sometimes if you don't get to product market fit and you start trying to create customers, doing a lot of marketing campaign and so on, you get leads, that end up killing your business because you are not ready. They want this thing, you can't meet up and so on. And at the end of the day, you can't scale. So if you launch wrong, of course, it's a death spiral. So, but not all startups are alike. In customer development, this is a very important concept. It also requires time on its own to go in depth, right? There are different kinds of startups. Are you in an is it a new product in an existing market, a new product in a new market, right? Is it a new product in existing market? We are trying to, that's resegmented market. Is it a low cost resegmentation or a niche resegmentation and so on? So another important thing you need to know about is the technology life cycle adoption curve. So there are usually different stages. You have the enthusiasts and the early visionaries, and then you have the mainstream market, right, which include the early majority, late majority, and the laggards. So customer development actually happens in these two stages, the enthusiasts and visionaries. And these are people that quickly understand what you are trying. If they connect to your vision, they are high risk takers. They are ready to give you that, paycheck, and they are ready to adopt this buggy solution and so on. They are visionary, excited. They just want to, get to that, to the vision and so on, right? But there's this chasm, which is very important. You can see this wide gap. So what it's saying is, if you are not careful, you see some early visionaries that like your product, but at the end of the day, you think, oh, it's successful, and then you hit a roadblock. And there's a lot of work you have to do to close this gap. So that's why your customer development is key, identifying the early visionaries and work with them to continue to get feedback, and so on. Because the mainstream market, they don't rely on the early visionaries' feedback. Right? A lot of things have to happen in the market, in the industry, before the mainstream guys, are ready to adopt. And that's when you can, want to scale. So quickly, the customer development model, this is kind of theoretical. I like that a lot of practical words and stories were given. But the customer development is about these 4 stages, right? The customer discovery, validation, customer creation, and company building. So before you focus too much on spending on how to put a structure, how to hire this senior CTO, VP of this and that, these 2 steps, the search where you keep this talking to customers, you validate, you iterate and pivot, it's very key. You don't move to the next stage, right, until you get this right. And customer creation simply means you now have a product market fit. You can now, spend money in awareness, marketing, and so on, because there's a real problem, and identified a solution to that. And then, of course, as you grow, company building is also very critical. This is where you have to think of structures, processes, and so on. So because of time, I can't break down as well. These are all explanation of the different stages. So like we've iterated, the job of the customer development team is to see whether there are customers and a market for that vision. And remember, as a startup, the whole company is the customer development team, from the CEO to the last staff. There's nothing like, oh, my job is just to write code. Oh, I'm the CEO, I'm just, supervising, or I'm the QA. No, everyone is part of the team, which means all of you should talk to the customer. You have to step out of the building and talk to the customers. This is a very a snapshot from, I think it's Product Hunt and so on, emphasizing about why you have to, engage to the customers. You have to step out of the building, talk to people, right? And you can see the emphasis there. Set up at least 30 meetings or you won't have a good product. This is the minimum. And as in, by this standard, it means all of you here, right? The question we should ask you, have you spoken to 30, have you had 30 meetings with potential customers or prospective customers? If not, you have to have this in your plan. You have to talk to as many people as, as possible. You need to get them on the phone, set up meetings, get feedback, use the MOMS test as explained, the 5 whys. You have to get to the root and understand what really the customers want before you write a single line of code, right? Or you start any kind of production or development. So this more about the 4 types of startups, like I explained earlier. They have their own, characteristics, and so on. And sorry, no, this is a video by Steve Blank. You can search on YouTube and can learn more about market types, and other concepts on customer development. So you have to synchronize your PD and customer development. They can't be independent or in silos. And that's why I explained, as a startup, everyone is part of the customer development team. So these are more of, points. So there's this by Steve Blank, right? Which I truly, believe and agree to this. There's a true and repeatable path to success, a path that eliminates or mitigates the most egregious risks and allows the company to grow into a large, successful enterprise. And of course, customer development is that true path. If you do it right, it's almost a guarantee. Of course, there's force majeure and so on. We don't want to go into, spiritual or too philosophical, but really this is what we mean is if you follow this concept and do it the right way, then success is guaranteed. Thank you very much.
Wow.
And sorry, quickly, I want to apologize. Last week, I think there was I couldn't join the office after hours. I was a few minutes late. Probably some of you joined, and then when I joined, you've left. So, but I have one tomorrow set up by 4 p.m. so we can catch up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I don't know what I'm just thinking now is I wish I could get all these mentors, back up their brains and then install into my own brain. It would be really wonderful. Thanks, guys. Abubakar.
Okay, thank you very much.
You know what I say about the bottom pot? It's always the sweetest.
Well, I hope it turns out to be so. But I'm grateful for being the person at the end for so many reasons. And I think part of that is also because most of what I would need to say has already been said. So I will just quickly run through an 8-slide presentation and thank the people who have come before me for all the work they've done to set the tone. So customer development is what everybody here has already mentioned, and I'm sure the FI curriculum will give you a lot more information on that. But I just want to talk about the fact that it's essentially a 4-step process, depending on what part of the customer development phase you're in. And Faiz had a slide that did a good description of customer discovery and validation. And so as you go into customer development, you need to understand what phase you are in. And the first thing you will know is that at the beginning of every bit of customer development is your assumption. You have this idealistic notion of what the problem is, who your customer archetypes are, what their channels are, and a slight idea of what the solution is going to be like before you go to start discussing. But the most important part is noting what your assumptions are and what will either validate or disprove of them. That's the very first beginning. And depending on whether you are in discovery or the validation phase, your testing will be different. For example, one of the key insights you will take from the story Idowu told about the guy with his masters and all his knowledge is that if he hadn't known where he was in the business, then in the customer development process, then he would have been trying to solve for product market fit when he hadn't even completed customer discovery. And so at what point, for example, do you begin to do your MVP? Was he wasting his time in the second phase, for example, in the second scenario, when he went out to go and do customer discovery, understand what the customer goes through, which is the angle that I want to take it from, not from the angle of the Baba himself, who is the guy that runs the bus, but from the angle of who the customer is, why the customer decides to go on the downfall, even with the risk that the downfall may break down. So that's more important. So if you're in customer discovery, understanding the customer at that point is more important than actually building a solution. So even though it's a 4-step process, understanding where you are, whether it's discovery or validation, is going to help you. And then of course, if you've already done some of that, you're going to then be looking at product market fit, which is the situation where your value proposition and your distribution channels align with what the customer base is looking for. And that's the sweet spot, right? That's where people want to really invest the seed, Series A funds and help you scale, because at least you've shown you're either pre-revenue or early revenue stage, and then you can move on. So very, very important as you go into customer development is that you understand what stage you are in to start with, because as we've heard and as we will continue to hear, is that customer development is a lifelong journey for businesses. So think about the business you love the most, your most valuable brand that you know. For some of us, it may be Apple. For other people, it may be simple Coca-Cola. For some other people, it may be the Amala joint by the corner of your house when you come out. Whatever it is, the best businesses are constantly in customer development, but at different phases. So you need to understand that this is very important. And so once you understand these things, then you can then decide to get into the third and fourth steps of the customer development, the iterating and pivot. Iterating is changing tiny bits of the business. The pivot is when you change the business completely, either to address a different target market, to address a different customer, or to solve a different problem entirely from what you started with. And then of course you rinse and repeat, because usually you will do several cycles of the customer development before you're done. So most importantly, as we talk about customer assumptions, I'm going to just focus on customer archetypes and why they're important. And one of the reasons why I think it is important that we do this is part of the conversation that we had at the beginning about the events management solution and the assumption that events are events. And we'll try to do a simple analogy of why events are not events and how that can become tricky by looking at the customer archetypes and who they are. So the customer persona or archetype is usually the person who is your customer, your most frequent class of customer. And the reason why you want to create a persona or an archetype for that customer is so that you can market him, know where to reach him, know what the influences are for why they make their buying decisions. Because at the end of the day, people buy emotionally. You may think that people do things for several different reasons. Sometimes it's money, but mostly it's emotions. And unless you understand who the decision maker is, who the customer is, and who the influence on the customer is, you may never know. So for example, Indomie is a brand, right? But who's Indomie's customer? Do we know? Anybody? Maybe put it in the chat box. Who's Indomie's customer? Well, no, maybe put it in the chat box. Maybe put it in the chat box. Yeah, thank you. So who's the customer for Indomie? Students, kids, children, right? But do they spend their money on Indomie? Really, the kids spend their money. So an understanding of who the customer is and who the influencer for the purchase is going to save you a lot of time and help you also get through a lot of stress. So the parents, usually the moms and the dads, are the customers, but the user or the consumer is someone different. And so you need to understand basic things about who that person is and build a persona. For example, how much do they make in a year? What's their role? Where do they go? Where do they want you to meet them to have conversations about their buying choices and things like that? By building a persona for each classification of customer you have, you can then decide which one is going to give you that 80% of the business from that little 20% fraction of that customer. And that's the sweet spot, because no matter what you do, there are a small category of customer types who will end up sustaining your business. And the sooner you identify them and reach out to them, the better your business is going to stand for success. And so whatever business you're in, finding that customer persona that is most likely to sustain you is going to be your first step to finding your beachhead, which is also where you want to start your selling, where you want to start your marketing and your targeting, and that will then scale you up. So events may be events, but unless you segment events into different categories of events, you will be marketing everybody and losing everybody at the same time. So I just thought to do a reference to that, and other people have already done that as well. So very good. Now we'll move very quickly now to the next stage that I want us to talk about, which is working with feedback, which is what you are going to spend most of your time doing customer validation doing. Because what you're trying to do is to test the market, hear what the market says, but the market will sometimes lead you astray. And how do you sift out the truth from the chaff, and how do you make sure that you're not just being thrown left, right by different types of customers, and how do you know you're even targeting the right segment of people to talk to, and whether your solution is targeted at the right people as well? We always say that there's this way, of course, there's that way, and then there's the other way. The role of customer development is to help you find that other way that your competitors have not found that makes you different from whatever exists in the market. But sometimes doing things this way might be the solution that you need if whatever is the pain point is actually very small, that a little tweak is going to be what will help you get the market or get in. Because at the end of the day, it's not every business that wants to start and eliminate everybody. There are businesses that will only succeed if competitors exist. So think about it. Tesla isn't fighting with everybody in the automobile business. You think about it, Apple isn't fighting with everybody in the mobile telephone business. And so that's how it works. The more you understand the importance of customers in how you're able to succeed in the environment, the better it is also when you go to talk to customers and to understand the feedback that you get. So here are a few tricks of the trade as we round up. First, you need to know that understanding customer archetypes is usually the reason why some businesses succeed and others fail. And the focus for understanding customer archetypes is not just to build a profile, but to also understand the preferred channels. Because by understanding the profile of the customer archetypes and their preferred channels, you can then decide what is the best way to sell to them. And that will then define the structure that you build your business in. And that will define whether you're doing business to customer directly, or you're doing business to another business who will then reach your customer, or you're doing business to customer. So think about the simple sale of mobile recharge cards, right? And how that has transformed from being something that you stand by the side of the road and buy, to being something that you will probably just dial a short code from MTN and buy. Now that's a model, right? It used to be business to customer directly, but then a value proposition came that offered business to customer. And that has now scaled to such a great length that people are even surprised that people still buy scratch cards and scratch them or buy the printed types, depending on the segment. So that's what you need to understand. It is very, very important that you understand your customer archetype, because again, that will determine the structure of your business. With working with feedback, the biggest trick of the trade is to understand when to iterate or when to pivot. And the simple answer to this is there is no silver bullet. There is no one size fits all. It all depends on you and your team and the kind of advisory services that you have tied to your business. And that's why it's a lot of work. And this is why customer development usually fails, because people get tired. Sometimes you continue to iterate when really you should pivot or even just throw in the towel and run away. And other times you pivot too soon when all you needed to do was to iterate. Hopefully through the course of this program, and as we have these conversations in office hours and we understand the specifics of your businesses, we can help you understand what you need to do at a particular point in time with regards to iterating and pivoting. But most importantly, when it comes to iterating or pivoting, there are things you must try to avoid. And the first thing is narrow sampling. And narrow sampling is something that happens when, for example, you're trying to start a business and you talk to people who are trying to be polite, people who know you, who want to say they will help you or they will buy for you. So I talk to everybody on my street and they say they will buy, and I take that and I extrapolate for the whole population of Lagos. And when I do, the people who are on my street don't even buy the first day I bring it out to buy. I keep saying, but I did all these customer discovery, I asked questions and everything. So that's a result of narrow sampling. That's one of the things you really, really need to avoid. The second thing though, is also analysis paralysis, which is a situation where you're analyzing everything and you forget to actually execute. Because at the end of the day, businesses succeed by execution. So execute, execute, execute always beats analysis paralysis. Don't try to have solutions to everything the customer has told you. Don't try to have solutions to everything the market is telling you needs to be solved. Don't try to have solutions for everything, because sometimes by the time you're done finding solutions, the problem has already moved on. So think about when COVID struck and people were trying to find solutions for how to move around, how to have food, how to, go out to the groceries and things like that. The people who made a lot of killing in 2020 were the people who went out immediately. Not the people who were there analyzing and things like that. They were paralyzed by their analysis while people were making money in the market. So try to avoid analysis paralysis. Yes, it's good to analyze, but always execution beats analysis in this market in customer development, because you want to fail fast and you want to take your learnings and improve, because customer development is an agile market. It's not waterfall. You have to try, fail, release the next iteration, do another sprint, try, fail, like that. That's the only way it works. And people say it's a technology thing, that this is something that works in the technology market, but it's not. It's just the way the world is built right now. The more you test, the more you fail, the greater your chances of success. So remember, avoid analysis paralysis. And finally, counterfactual thinking. If you're an entrepreneur who's going to keep thinking about what could have happened in the past, then you're not going to succeed. And counterfactual thinking is that thing in the back of your mind that tells you, if I had only done this, maybe. It's already gone. And that's why the sunk cost fallacy, where you've already spent money, even though it's painful, is usually one of the things that also kills businesses. Businesses that need to be dropped, iterated, or pivoted. You spend so much time because you're thinking, I've spent this amount of money, or because someone else has done it in short period of time and I hadn't. So counterfactual thinking is something you need to try and erase. It's not easy as an entrepreneur because we're passionate people, we're emotional people, but counterfactual thinking will do more harm than good to your business as an entrepreneur. And if you avoid these three things, and counterfactual thinking is something that has a little slang right now in the world, right? They call it FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? So try to avoid FOMO. And if you avoid these things and you do a lot more of the things that we're advising, then hopefully your business will succeed. But customer development is difficult. It's a 360, 24/7 job. It's a job for everyone in your business, not just the CEO, not just the marketing people, but it's for everyone. And that's why the best organizations have a feedback mechanism where everybody is actually making inputs, where everybody is also collecting feedback for the business at every touch point with a customer. So thank you very much. And if you do this the right way, there's a huge tendency that you may find that other way that makes you a whole lot of money. Are we still there? Shagun, it's back to you.
Shagun, it looks like he's frozen. Well, thank you so much for that contribution, Abu. Very, very grateful for the insights. Yes, so it's time for Q&A. So founders, okay, so I see you can just unmute and ask your question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted having this question in the chat box, but I was wondering how I'm going to write it down. Looking at this topic, customer development, we have actually started this in sorry, in the assignments that we have for the last time. Looking at number 6 and number 7 talks about customer development. I really want to ask because I had Idowu speaking about solution validation. I've actually carried out my research and I've brought out some customers' problem, and I have this solution in mind. But I began to wonder, looking at the assignment we've done so far, and to what Mr. Udowu said, I was trying to see if I can figure within myself, if I can figure out the differences in terms of solution validation. I don't know, a situation whereby you have paper solutions that you meet your customers or your potential customers and ask them on paper and pen, you know, about the solution you are trying to provide for this problem that they are facing. You know, or does it have to do, you go ahead prototyping? And I really want to understand the relationship between the paper solution, prototyping, and developing your first MVP. So that is the question I have, and I need more light on this. Thank you.
Okay, so any of the mentors can take this. The rest.
Should we take a few questions before we respond? I see another hand.
That's funny. Well, okay, either way, we'll then lose track.
Actually, I know I have a short memory, so if it's all right, I'm going to jump in responding.
Okay.
So the part of your question that I think I understood was about, you know, whether or not you need to sit down and have conversations with customers with pen and paper. Did I understand? It was a multi-part question.
When you're,
when
you're trying to validate your solution, you know, you actually write the solution on a pen and paper, just like the way it's contained in the assignment, in number 7 assignment. And does it have to do with prototyping? Because I think prototyping also, you're trying to communicate your solution too as well. So I don't know if that is taken.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you've rightly understood there are a variety of ways that you can approach this. You know, one, at the end of the day, you do want to make sure you approach it in a way where you don't get false positives. And so how do you avoid getting false positives? Ideally, you're asking your customer to commit something. So potentially you're having, I mean, once you've done initial customer discovery, you know, where you've interviewed your customers without talking about your solution at all, you're asking them open-ended questions around the issue that you're trying to address for them. You know, after you've done that, after you've taken the time to say, okay, how are you dealing with this issue right now? What about that works for you? What about that doesn't work for you? Why? You know, after you've done that with at least your 30 or your 100, depending on which number you choose, you're gonna have a nice base of data to start to shape, you know, what that sales conversation looks like. You will, I guarantee you, you will see patterns if you do this process the way the mentors have described today. You will see patterns. So definitely, you know, sit down with them and have a sales conversation to say, hey, this is the offering. You know, we're charging this amount for it. So ideally, in your open-ended question discovery, you're also asking questions about how much are you spending on that right now? Oh, okay. And you know, how much does the solution that you're currently using cost, so that you can test out your pricing model as well when you choose to have that sales conversation. So you actually don't even need to have the full MVP developed when you go to have those initial sales conversations. You can sell it purely as a concept that exists. You know, so it goes back to, I think it was Idowu who was mentioning earlier on, the idea that somebody said, oh, okay, it will be ready in 6 months. I want to pay for it now. That's what part of, you know, what your opportunity with this exercise is, to test that. Now that I've spoken to all these people and I've understood their problem, I've developed an initial understanding of what the concept would be. You're gonna try and sell them your solution without having spent a dime on developing features. So that's my take on it. I would love to hear the mentors' perspectives.
Okay, mentors, what are we doing? Are we going to take all the questions? Because I don't want a situation that questions will bring up questions. So I know I've got some questions on the chat, and I've got Kwame and Tombere with questions. So I'm going to close the question receiving at this point. Any founder with a question? None. Okay, great. So we'll take the questions with hands raised up, then we'll take the ones in the chat. Mentors, if you feel like dropping in the eat for them, additionally, you could do it in the chat. So Kwame, Open up and let's have your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the mentors. You guys have really been very insightful. However, my question is not directly to you guys. It's to founder and the admin. So we have received new knowledge now and new understanding. So, you know, we had the deliverables for the first week and the second week. Can we go back and edit all those stuff?
Can we take this?
The new knowledge we have now.
Yes.
Lydia, did you get that question? He said, can they go back to the assignments that have been marked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Even when you graduate, it's there. You keep, yes, updating.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tombiri, your question.
But let's stay with customer development, please. We'll get to.
Tombiri, your question. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. So my question, okay, so for platform businesses, so businesses like, say, LinkedIn, where they actually depend on, you know, customers or people gathering crowd information, basically. On the onset, it's free. And so if I'm just thinking, when they wanted to start LinkedIn, who and what kind of questions would they have been looking at asking? Because they are looking at, oh, let's just get everybody into the pool. And then the key question of, are they willing to pay for it? So in my mind, I'm trying to think what kind and who. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
I think you come with the question again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So
Come with the question again.
Okay, so one of the ideas we were pitching was actually around platform business. Okay. And the challenge I've noticed is that it is kind of difficult to profile who and differentiate who your customer is and the beneficiary and who's going to pay for it. So I was thinking something like LinkedIn. I'm just wondering what kind of questions were they asking? Oh, do you guys want to connect for a corporate platform? But then to the point of who's going to pay for it, how and what kind of questions would one look at asking? Because I've struggled with that, and I wasn't able to know, you know, what kind of questions to ask, and even to identify who's going to pay. Because, say, for instance, the researchers, who is it the researcher? But you need his information. You want them to put a lot of information, so you don't want to charge them. So how do you frame that question, especially when you're considering before you start the project? Because, you know, it's after they have got a lot of people, is it at that point they begin to say, okay, we begin to charge for this? But then you started the project. So what questions would you be asking, basically? Thanks.
Now, David, Alonzo, and Miracle, I was avoiding this. That's why I wanted to see everyone with a question raising up their hands. Now, I would ask for the last time, is there any founder with a question? Raise up your hand. If there's none, I see just 3 people with question, Okafor, David, and Miracle. I will not take any other question. You would have to push them to officers. John, you just woke up. Okay, last time, anybody? No, so questions are closed now. Okafor first. Oh, sorry. Do we respond then so that we don't lose track of the questions? Mentors, what do we want done? Do we want to respond?
So I think we can respond because there's also a question from Abubakar Ghana.
Yes, Ghana.
I think in the chat.
Yes.
So that's like 3 questions. I see that, or I heard the other mentor responding to the first question about paper solution and first MVPs. And it really depends on how technical your MVP needs to be for it to be a source of a solution. But I also loved the idea that you could use the fact that this is what the solution is, what it's going to take us this time to use. Are you going to be willing to commit to this in the next 6 months or something like that? And usually, even that kind of commitment, if it's a B2C business or if it's a B2B business, can be enough. You get what is called a letter of intent, and then you can raise money based on the letter of intent to go and build your solution without having to build an MVP first. The crowd funding movement has also helped that that idea of building solutions without an initial MVP, raising the money to actually build the solution, but promising some kind of perks for early adopters and the enthusiasts and things like that. So I think that could answer that kind of question. If it's a business that's going to take a long time for an MVP to come out and you don't want to delay, then maybe you could use a paper questionnaire, understand the market, draft what an ideal solution is of some sort, and then get people to commit to something like that. The second question is from Abubakar Ghana about you've made a mistake of adopting product development model. How do you mitigate? It really depends on what the market is telling you. If you've already spent money developing a product, you've built it, you've rolled out, let's say 1,000 units from China, or maybe you've gone to do 1 million copies of whatever it is from China and you're coming back and the market tells you this is not what we're looking for, then I'm sorry for you, but that's the greatest sunk cost you're going to encounter. And sometimes that can be, the end of you as an entrepreneur, especially if you've already raised some kind of money from the people we call, the fools, the 3 Fs, friends, family, and fools. So if you've raised money from fools, then there's going to be a lot of issues for you. But yeah, so usually it depends on how far deep you are in, whether you have enough money to iterate or not, and if even the iteration is going to be acceptable or a total pivot is going to be necessary. So that's the problem with a product development model. It's usually difficult to come back from it if you've spent a lot of money or if your outlay is huge. Unless, of course, you have limitless pockets. And I pray we all do that. So that's my response to the second question. And for the third question, the platform business, and this is why I usually laugh when I see lots of people trying to set up what we call the freemium model. So the freemium model is a model where you're trying to build on network effects, right? So you're trying to get lots of people to come on your platform and then use the fact that you have this lots of users to start generating money. Ideally, in the beginning, what you want to focus on is how many people are going to be enough for the freemium model to say it has reached that level of network effects that you can then begin to charge. And it's difficult. And that's why most platform businesses usually are, their runway is huge. They usually spend a lot of money without seeing returns. Twitter took how many years since operations before they turned a profit for the first time to even break even? You think about Facebook, you think about LinkedIn. They need a lot of outlay in the beginning. And that's why it needs a lot of commitment, a lot of clarity for investors to jump on a freemium model. Unless the end goal is very convincing, it's difficult. So for LinkedIn, for example, LinkedIn didn't start the professional network. Several people did professional networks and failed. And the reason is because, again, the platform business is difficult. And so if you want to do a platform business, you need to understand what part of the business you can continue to scale without generating revenue in the short time, what the ideal customer size is before you can start to roll out, of course, the premium end of it, which is where you start to generate money. It's usually very tricky, but I hope we do a lot of research as we go into this, because network effects are good. When they work, they're beautiful, and you can have so many people rushing in to come do business. And usually the users are not, they're not the people you're targeting. Users are what we call your tool, they're your solution. And that's why you're offering it to them for free. but you need to have an understanding of what the revenue model is at the back of that. So that's just my response. I hope other mentors would also take a stab at these questions.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll take 2 questions and then response, 2 questions, response. So does any of the mentors, do you have response to those questions? Abakana's good question and Tombiri's question. Do you have insights, to share? Any mentor? Okay, yeah.
Hi, okay. Hi, everyone. So thank you very much, Abubakar. That was some serious insights. So I have a slightly divergent opinion about Tombari's. I already expressed my first opinion. So Tombari's question is it's kind of like two-pronged. The first part is that I think her question about the type of questions to ask in the early stages is really something that you cannot authentically lay any claim to until you think about what is your customer pain. So obviously, everything takes life from your framing of the customer's problem, aka pain, aka friction. That framing will, coupled with your understanding, using the Baba Moshood principle analogy, your understanding of how that customer views the world should be able to tell you how to frame the questions. So obviously, no question will make sense if that question does not portray you as trying to help the customer alleviate a problem. And so I'm saying, if you really answer the question of helping, well, first of all, discovering the problems that that customer is facing, potential customer, and or helping that customer express, either you discover it yourself or you help the customer articulate or express those problems, you are actually softening your own ground. You are making your own work easier. So the question of what kind of questions would LinkedIn have asked in the beginning really depends on what was the problem LinkedIn was trying to solve in the beginning. That's the first part. The second part is about monetization, especially in the freemium context. I like to refer to, it wasn't in this session. So there's something called a pain meter. I described during my talk about Baba Moshood, asking customers a very, critical question. On a scale of 1 to 10, dear customer, on a scale of 1 to 10, what level does this pain or problem represent to you? So if over the course of your customer development period, you have asked that particular customer that question, that same question, about 7 different pain points. One particular pain point is about fuel scarcity. Another, and they tell you that that's a 9. Another pain point is about downfall Baba Moshood, and they tell you that that is a 2. If you are building a solution like LinkedIn that has its free section and the premium section, you can already see that the parts of the solution that are a 2 will best be captured as free. The parts of the solution that are a 9, you would be losing out if you don't charge for that kind of solution, because the customer is already in enough pain that they don't mind shelling out some dollars or naira or whatever the currency is in exchange for your alleviation of their pain. I thought that was important to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Do. Okay, so if there's no other mentor, let's take questions from Okafor, then Alonzo. I think we could, Miracle, your hand is down. So I suppose you.
Because my question, I was going to piggyback to what
Okay.
mentioned. They already answered that.
Okay, fine. So let's take the next 3 questions together, and then the mentors. Mentors, please pay attention. Okafor, you're going first. Make your question brief and let them understand. Okafor.
Okay, thank you. I'm with you. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Bashir talked about a business idea that FI would love to invest to, or would love to invest on. Could he shed more light on by that FI would like to invest? Secondly, in our first session, I said I was going to do check housing, and he said that's quite a competitive area. I thought about it, and I said maybe I should think about my second option, which is the social media connection. Where I'm developing something like a birthday app. So I would want to know, if I develop a trial version and I put it out there, how would other big social companies, Facebook, for instance, how would he see it if I display connect to a birthday app on Facebook? How do you think they will see it, and how do you think people will see it? Thank you. I can't hear you, sir.
Sorry, David, your question. Okafor, you can mute. Okay. David, your question.
Okay. So the question is the potential customers for the problem that I'm trying to solve are customers with that own treasury bills or government bonds or publicly quoted shares. Now, I do have a challenge reaching these types of customers. First of all, because many of them are not willing to, it's a bit evasive asking, well, do you own any of those sorts of instruments? So I've tried to use LinkedIn with limited success. And more recently, I've thought about building a wait list and then reaching out to people on the wait list. But then again, it seems, especially for Nigeria, where if you ask someone, do you own any of these? I started to think maybe this is in quotes, a 419, which is a Nigerian code for fraud. So I wanted to find out, is there any suggestions or approaches that could help to reach customers in this segment to validate the problem?
Okay. Thank you, David. Question noted. Question will be addressed. John, you're up next.
Okay, my question. I'm just curious. So I see some companies that don't have a business model or a revenue model, but they're a startup and they're doing well. And next thing you hear, they're acquired for millions of dollars here and there. Examples: WhatsApp. Another example is Twitter. They weren't making money. They didn't know how they would make money, but they were receiving funding. So I want to know if this is a Silicon Valley thing, or if someone here has that kind of business, would anyone fund them? Would anyone be interested in it? Because I know business is supposed to be for profit. So how does that work here in locally?
So, okay, say they don't have models.
A business model when they started. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so
or revenue model.
Okay. Mentors, the quick 3 questions are out there. 3 questions are out there. Who wants to address them?
I see Ido's hand up there.
Okay, Ido, yeah.
All right. Hi, Okafor, David, and John. So, Okafor, I'm sorry, I didn't get the second part. Actually, I didn't get the two parts of your question. The first part about FI investing, I didn't get that part. So if you don't mind,
okay, could I explain better?
Okay, please do.
Okay, I asked the other time, Mr. Basel was like, okay, even today he made a statement what FI could be interested in investing on. So I said, are there ideas or business ideas that are more intriguing to the institute than the other? The second, because of that, I now looked at second, since we already have 6 business ideas. So I now said maybe I should focus more on the second, because I had already had that concept for a long time. Could I have a birthday app where people of the same month and of the same day celebrate? You just come to the app, for instance, November. What you are just going to see is November today. So everything is November and today. You just click November, Australia, you see November by different countries and continents, November, Australia, November, US, November, Canada. And when you open the November, you see people of the same birthday with you, and all you do is virtual celebration and connection. So how does that go? So if I want to connect the market and I bring that out and I say, and I publish it on Facebook, how would Facebook as an organization perceive it? That's my question.
Let me try. Let me start from the second one. The question, if you had asked this in office hours, the question I would have thrown back at you is, can you paint me a high resolution picture of someone that by the time you just described this birthday app concept, that person will feel like, oh my God, Okafor, where have you been all my life? Can you paint me a picture of such a human being? If you can.
Exactly, sir.
Okay, so if you can, then you are onto something. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, how will Facebook react? I want to believe that you are using Facebook loosely and you are saying, how will a referral engine react? Whether it's Facebook or it's Google Ads or it's some other type of place where you can dump information about your product and people can then access it from there. The question I would ask is, what is the need for those people for you to use their platforms to promote your product, as well as, is that where your customers are? For instance, I don't think there's anybody on this call that is less than 25 years old. I don't think so. If you want to sell something to 25-year-olds and below, you cannot go to Facebook. They are not there. But you will find them on TikTok and Snapchat, okay? But if you want to sell something to 60-something-year-olds or let's say 40-something-year-olds and above, you cannot find them on TikTok and Snapchat. You will find them on Facebook, Instagram, maybe LinkedIn and Twitter. So if I may move on from that question, just in the spirit of answering. The second question about FI investing, I think the FI local directors will be in the best position to answer that. But I am aware, just by virtue of association, that FI has something called a funding lab that is unlocked and becomes accessible to you upon graduation. So if you graduate successfully and meet certain criteria, you will automatically at no extra fee have access to FI's funding lab. I believe it's free, except the information has changed recently. The local directors, Madam Ajuma, Mr. Shegma, and Catherine can clarify on that. If I can move on to David. David spoke about difficulty of grabbing attention of HNIs. I noted it down on my sheet as HNIs, high net worth individuals, because that's just how I interpreted what you said. You said people who hold high value, treasury bonds, treasury bills, bonds, stocks, and stuff like that. Essentially, so how do I say this? What do I have that I can use to demonstrate here? So this is this is a power bank, and this is a Samsung phone. Can we just assume that this is an iPhone? Let me place it for you. Can we assume that the white one is an iPhone and this is a Samsung as it is? Now, there is this principle that is universal to all human beings, okay? It's called the theory of change. And the FMCGs, the guys who sell us toothpaste, sweets, and so on and so forth, people who sell products to us and we buy those products without thinking about what we're doing, have mastered this principle. Let me explain it. If I am a die-hard Samsung user, and I've been using Samsung for the last 20 years, and you need, as everybody is here, we are all marketers because we're all going to build products that we're going to sell. And you need to convert me from Samsung to Apple. In summary, your job, I can reduce your job at the end of the day to the following simple statement. Your job is to convince me that the cost, the total cost to me, the cost of remaining a Samsung fanatic or a Samsung user is greater than the cost of switching over to Apple. If you can demonstrate, if you can drop that, the seed of that thought in my mind and it germinates, and you can paint a picture in my mind and I can buy the picture you are selling to me, which is what Coca-Cola does with those pictures of somebody gulping a bottle, is the fear of missing out, okay? Now, when I say cost is actually slightly complicated. There's financial, there's economic cost in there, there's social cost, the fear of missing out, there's emotional cost, and so on and so forth. Your job is to convince me. Why am I describing this? If you are trying to get the attention of the people who are holding these types of assets, but you are not succeeding, there is something that you are failing to communicate to them that matters to them. Have I made some sense? And I can stop here and we can have more detailed conversations, more focused conversations to find out what that thing is. But essentially, there's something that you are failing. Now, perhaps that thing is even in the tone of the way you are crafting your messages. Because if you build a good enough persona like Yemisi described earlier, one of the key things in a good persona is tone of voice. I mentioned earlier that people that are 25 and below, they have a certain language. I don't want to digress too much. If you've ever used Microsoft Word and you encountered an error message, the error messages in Microsoft Word have a formal, heavy, serious tone. You see a warning triangle and some text, error encountered, error code 022555. Please contact administrator, okay? Have you ever encountered an error in Google Docs? What do you see? You see a playful dinosaur image dancing on your screen, and then they say, oops, it's not, oops, you've encountered an error. It's not you, it's us. That's tone of voice, okay? So now, I don't want to go into all the details, but there's something you are missing that is not connecting with those guys. Let me just stop there on David's question. I forget John's specific question now, but I wrote it as no visible business model. I may need help from one of the other mentors. I'd like to crave your indulgence at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Abdullahi, Abubakar. The questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think ID has done an excellent job of responding to the questions that he has taken. And I think usually if you're looking for a channel to do customer validation, then your customer persona is not complete. That's all I'll say. And that's why you see people, on the streets handing out flyers. And when you collect the flyer, you just know that they're wasting their time, right? I see them all the time. When I go to jog on Saturdays, I come back and there's a flyer on my car and I see that, I just laugh. I'm like, why did you waste your time printing this? You don't understand the customer persona. You don't understand who you're looking for. It's like someone who wants a client to come to the Hilton, right? Going to Wuse Market to be ringing bell and saying, come and stay at the Clinton, come and stay at the Hilton. You're not going to find a customer there. So, but understanding why people go to the Hilton will make you understand how you sell to them and how you advertise to them and how you get them to come on board. So all that I would say is, if you're doing customer validation for HNIs, then you need to build a HNI customer archetype that drills down to not just age and how much money they make and the type of cars they drive and the kind of places they spend their time, but also what influences their buying decision. Is it the women that they date? Is it the children that they have? What is it that is that emotional connection that they have to the buying decisions that they make? The question unanswered is John's question, which is his lack of understanding of why people without any perceived revenue model are acquired and they seem to continue to raise money and things like that. Well, the issue is, like I said, it's network effects. It's a freemium model for a reason. And you may think that they don't have a revenue model, but they definitely do, and that's why people pay them. So think about simple things like mine. Think about GitHub that was just acquired. It was an open space platform for every developer to come. And why were developers angry when they were bought? Because people realized that they had built network effects that the person who was bought was going to leverage to make a lot of money. So all these businesses, usually they leverage network effects. And let me tell you a little bit about network effects. Think about how much it costs to advertise on NTA, right? You know NTA? Okay, how many of us have watched NTA in the last 1 week? Okay, now think about, compare advertising on NTA and advertising on CNN. Which do you think costs more and why? That's network effects. Now think about your app that you may think you're building, right? That has 1,000 people using it. And think about Facebook that has 2 billion daily users. Okay, now, do you think they're the same? They're not. That's network effects. Think about something as simple as the banks in Nigeria. When you think about UBA and Union Bank, and you think about, let's say, Zenith Bank, GTB, and maybe an Access Bank recently, even though they still have a long way to go. Now, when you think about GT Bank, only thing GT has going for them now, there's a very huge GT loyalist. I don't know them, but people remain with GT for that same reason, network effects. If you're going to do transactions with 100 people in Nigeria, and they are of a particular age grade and things like that, about 90% or 85% of those young people who are upwardly mobile are probably going to have accounts in Access Bank, GT, and Zenith Bank. And if you're doing business with a particular category of customers, they're going. So network effects are very, very important. They are highly valuable. And usually the person getting it for free is the product. Because like we always say, if you're not paying for it, if you're not the customer, then you're probably the product. And so the people who use it for free are the products, because people use the platform to get access to those users. And that's why you see Twitter making a whole lot of money, continuing to raise and raise and raise money without making any profit, because they're building network effects. Think about presidents having arguments and fights on the platform. Think about, everything that goes on in the world going there first. Think about right now, the fact that businesses are advertising there, that everybody's going there to rush. Why do people do that? Why did Facebook play a role in the elections in the United States, being triggered by people in Russia and all the arguments that keep going on? It's network effects. And sometimes it's more valuable than the money you see. And people are rushing to find access to network effects in this interconnected information-driven world. So don't think that they don't have revenue models. They are highly, highly valuable businesses that are being sold. So thank you very much.
Great, it's been a great session. So I'll be handing over to Lady A. We're rounding up now. We've done the question and answers. Lady A,
wow,
over to you.
What an evening. We could stay on and on and on and on, and there's just so much to talk about. And FI is really, really loaded with lots and lots of resources. So thank you very, very much, Abu, Katie, Yemisi, Faiz, and who am I? Ido. Thank you so much. And founders, you have a lot of material to, review with the slides that the mentors, will share with us. We'll upload it to the back end as is usual, and of course, you have the video, and also I thought I pulled out. Okay, there's some reading. Yes, quite a lot of reading that you also have to do. That will help with your, customer development work. Let me just share some of that. So put in the work, and of course the results will, you get the desired results. Great evening. And so further questions, office hours. So I'm booked for tomorrow. Yes, I've already, not tomorrow, Friday. I think Katie is also signed up for office hours. Abu, have you done that? Idowu, yes. So, please book your office hours ahead of time and get the best of help that you can get and feedback. So do all have a great evening and good night. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Good night.
Night.
Okay. Did we capture him? You captured him. He needs to send an email to that effect, because we will not tolerate lateness, and he should have notified us that he was having that problem with his laptop. Yeah, so he can't disappear in and out of the room. Okay, Oluwadara, how are you?
Yeah, fine, ma. My phone